Well, it's the Halloween season again, and we're just a day away from the spookiest time of the year, and I wanted to take some time to actually talk about some of my favorite horror movies. Horror movies have been around since, the beginning of cinema. They're something that I think everyone enjoys on some level because, being scared is something that, people really identify with. um, and people really like to translate that into film. You know, it's a genre that's not slowing down anytime soon, and it's something that I think is always going to be here. And I really think that horror movies show a little piece of our culture, to be honest. And so I figured I'd share with you my top 5 favorite horror movies. Event Horizon. This is a movie that I think a lot of people really like, but don't like, if that makes any sense. It's a really interesting movie, not because of what it is, but because of what it could have been. I know that sounds kind of strange, but um, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, famous for the shitty Resident Evil movies and Mortal Kombat. Um, Directed this, and it's about a bunch of people in space who take Sam Neill from Jurassic Park to go and investigate a ship that he helped build called the Event Horizon. And whenever they get there, they find the crew missing, blah blah blah. And basically, the reactor thing that makes them go into like a warp drive type thing opens up a black hole to hell. And pretty much when they get to the ship, it's just everything they've ever been scared of showing itself because the spaceship is haunted by hell. And it's pretty cool. I like the premise, but there's a lot of scenes basically where it shows just graphic, just insane amounts of crazy shit. And believe it or not, half of that was actually edited out, and that's what kind of sucks, is that we'll never really know what extreme scenes were in this. I mean, apparently half the budget was devoted to this shit, and it got cut out because it was so violent. I mean, even in the movie, the shit you see is pretty outrageous, but it's really cool at the same time. I think it's a really interesting movie, and it's actually got a pretty good atmosphere to it. I mean, the CGI hasn't aged well, and a lot of the stuff that they cut made the movie feel uneven. And I mean, basically, it feels like an unfinished film. But I love Lawrence Fishburne. Um, Sam Neill's fantastic in the movie as the guy that built the ship. Um, he he does a great job. The special effects for like the makeup, the practical effects, I guess I should say, are really cool from the little scenes that you see. I mean, it's a pretty interesting movie, and if you ever get a chance, I would totally recommend watching it and really you know soak it all in. Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. I know I just talked about Friday the 13th like a ton, but it's really a movie that a film series, I should say, that I really enjoy, but specifically, I like the sixth one. Um, it continues the story of Tommy Jarvis from the final chapter and part 5. It's played by a completely different actor. It's the guy from Return of the Living Dead, which is also an awesome movie. But basically, in this one, he tries to make sure Jason's dead at his grave because he's like having PTSD or whatever, and it accidentally brings Jason back to life through. He gets shocked by lightning, which is kind of cool because it's like Frankenstein sorta. But it's really the first movie where he's like a supernatural being, and this movie has a certain level of humor in it that I think a lot of them don't have. And there's a lot of fourth wall breaking, and it's just a really interesting movie in a series that kind of gets old sometimes. And I would highly recommend it if you haven't seen it because it's probably the best one. The Collector. This is a movie that I really feel like doesn't get enough attention. I mean, it's something that I think was really unique when it came out. I mean, it's so much more than just a horror movie. Like, this is a film that I actually feel like has some artistic direction, even though it always gets classified in that stupid fucking category of like torture porn or whatever. And it really sucks when movies like this get such a shitty title, because I hate that. This movie's much more than that. It's about a guy who owes money to loan sharks, and basically he's working as a contractor for like this construction company, and he's helping rebuild this rich family's house, and they have something valuable in their safe, so he goes to break in and steal it while they're out of town, only to find out that there is a serial killer actually in the house with him. And then he finds out that the family's in there, and there's a ton of elaborate traps in there set up, and he has to try and save the family while also getting the jewel in the safe to save his own family and avoid the killer. It's a really intense fucking movie, man. I remember the first time I saw it, I was just like, oh shit. Is he gonna get out of this? Is he gonna get caught? Oh, I mean, like, oh my god, the shit that the main character goes through in this is insane. But the payoff is mega awesome. It's such a good movie, and there was a sequel, The Collection, which really doesn't hold up compared to the first one, but it's really good, and best of all, it gives a fucking good ending. No sequels, no pointless sequels, and that's what The Fiend likes. No shitty sequels. This is a film series that will not be burdened by ridiculous amounts of stupid fucking sequels. And if you haven't seen The Collector, I totally recommend you watch it. The Shining. This is the classic Stanley Kubrick film based off the Stephen King novel of the same name, but that's really about where the similarities end. It's almost a completely different story than the King novel, which is equally good in its own right, but it's a totally different type of story. Basically, the movie stars Jack Nicholson as he's taking over to take care of this hotel throughout the winter, and he's a writer. And he's dealing with his past alcoholism, and he goes there with his family and slowly just goes insane. They say that the hotel's haunted, and the past caretaker killed his family with an axe, and they never really tell you if the place is haunted or not. They kind of leave it ambiguous. There's a lot of stuff like that in this movie, but it's just so good. The atmosphere is fantastic. The acting is wonderful. I mean, look at Jack Nicholson. He's an insanely fantastic actor, and in this, it really shows. I mean, the "Here's Johnny" line has been used 100 times over. I mean, it's a classic. It's a wonderful movie. If you haven't seen it, then you really should watch it. I think it's something that everyone in the world should see, not only as just a horror film, but just a really, really good film in general. Dawn of the Dead, the classic George A. Romero zombie movie, the one that really defined the genre. This is a classic film of the genre. If you haven't seen it, then you need to watch it. It's everything. It's truly a vision come true. As George A. Romero and like a small group of people made this movie, and it just really shows. It's something that you can really tell they all cared to really make. And I'm not going to spoil any of it, but it's about these people. They go to a mall to try and survive, and then obviously it doesn't go the way it should. Zombies, bikers, tons of stuff going on, social commentary. I mean, this movie is really, really ahead of its time, and there's so much I could say about it, but it would take forever. And basically go watch it and then thank me later. But that's my top 5. Thanks for watching.